The sky turned black. It was a normal morning. Children were going to school. People were driving to work. The sun was bright. The sky was clear. Then, at exactly 9 o'clock a.m., the sky turned black. Not just in one country, not just over one city. The whole world went dark at the same time. People looked up. Some screamed. Some fell to their knees. The sun had not disappeared. It was blocked. Something massive was in the sky. Thousands of black shapes floated high above the earth. Each one was the size of a mountain. Some were even bigger. They were not clouds. They were not human planes. These were alien warships. There were 9,900 of them. All over the world, people watched in fear. Governments were silent. Military bases went on alert. No one knew what to do. Then came the sound. It was not a human voice. It was deep, cold, and full of power. The voice spoke in every language at once. It echoed in people's heads. People of Earth, your time is over. We are the Zorath. We own the stars. Your planet is now ours. You have two choices, surrender or be destroyed. The message ended. The sky stayed black. The world was quiet for a moment. Then came panic. People ran through the streets. News channels showed fire and fear. Some said it was the end of the world. Others waited for their leaders to speak. In Washington, the U.S. president called an emergency meeting. In China, Russia, India, and Europe, leaders did the same. But there was one big problem. Earth had no space army. Humanity had never seen war in space. They had satellites, rockets, and some defense systems, but nothing strong enough to fight 9,900 alien warships. The Zorath had waited a long time. They watched Earth for years. They saw the humans fight each other, pollute their planet, and waste resources. The Zorath thought Earth was weak. They believed the humans would surrender quickly. They were wrong. Deep under the mountains of Norway, in a cold, dark bunker, a woman sat in front of an old computer. Her name was Dr. Lena Moritz. She was 67 years old, and she was once one of the best scientists in the world. Now she had one job. She opened a file with a code name, Iron Flame. The file had been locked for 40 years. It was not part of any military. It was not known to the public. Only 3 people in the world knew it existed. Lena typed a short message. Code read, Protocol Iron Flame. Initiate Phase 1. She pressed Enter. At that same moment, across the ocean in Nevada, a secret base lit up. Red lights flashed. Old systems turned on. One of them had not been touched since the year 2085. A deep voice spoke from the speaker. Iron Flame activated. Confirm identity. Lena placed her hand on a scanner. Dr. Lena Moritz. Authorization code 7 Delta 0. Confirmed. Welcome back, Dr. Moritz. The defense protocol is now live. Outside, the world was in chaos. The Zorath warships moved slowly over cities. They were watching, waiting, ready to attack if needed. Their weapons could burn mountains and freeze oceans. One warship alone could destroy a country. But humans were not giving up. In the skies above, fighter jets flew close to the alien ships, but stayed out of range. Soldiers were sent to protect cities. Doctors worked nonstop. Families hid underground. Even in fear, people helped each other. The Zorath leaders were confused. They expected humans to cry, run, and surrender. But the humans did not bow. They prepared to fight, even if it was useless. Back in the bunker, Lena received a new message on her screen. Project Titan online. Awaiting commander. She paused. There was only one person who could lead Project Titan. He was not a politician, not a general, not even a scientist. He was a man who disappeared 20 years ago after a failed space mission. A man the world forgot. But Lena had not forgotten him. She took a deep breath and sent one final message. Call Rain. Somewhere far away, a man opened his eyes. The war had not even begun, but humanity had just made its first move. The signal in the shadows. The sky was still black. 9,900 alien warships floated above Earth. People stayed indoors. Internet, TV, and radio talked about only one thing: the invasion. But no one knew what to do. The governments of Earth were quiet. The armies were afraid. The Zorath were watching. But deep underground, far from any city, something had begun. Dr. Lena Moritz sat in her cold, secret lab under the Norway mountains. She watched the old screen in front of her. The words were clear. Project Titan online. Awaiting commander. This message had not appeared in over 40 years. Lena sent a signal. Not to the government. Not to the army. She sent it to someone no one had seen in 20 years. A man named Rain. He was once a hero, a space captain, the leader in Earth's first deep space program. But after a mission failed and people died, he disappeared. Some said he died. Others said he went mad. But Lena knew the truth. He was alive, hiding, waiting, because he knew this day would come. Far away in the frozen lands of Alaska, a small house stood alone. No roads, no phone, just snow and silence. Inside, a man sat by a fire. His face was rough. His eyes were cold. He wore an old military jacket. The name on it said, RNA. A light blinked on his wall. A small screen lit up. Code red. Iron flame. Earth needs you. Rain stared at the screen for a long time. Then he stood up. He walked to a metal box and opened it. Inside were things from the past: a space badge, a broken helmet, and a photo of a ship exploding in space. He took a deep breath. "It's time," he said. In space, on one of the Zorath warships, the alien commander stood tall. His name was Arketh. He had destroyed 10 planets before Earth. He believed humans would be easy. But now, he felt something strange. The humans were slow to surrender. Some even fought back. One warship was attacked by human missiles, small, weak weapons, but full of anger. Another ship reported hacking attempts. Someone was trying to send signals into the fleet. That should have been impossible. Arketh growled. Who is doing this? He didn't know that Rain was already on the move. Back on Earth, Lena met Rain at a hidden airbase in Greenland. They spoke inside a quiet room. "You got old," Rain said. "So did you," Lena replied. Then she showed him a screen. "This is what we're up against. 9,900 warships. Each can destroy a continent." "I counted," Rain said, "but they made one mistake." Lena raised an eyebrow. "What mistake?" "They came too close." He pointed at Earth. "They think we are weak. But we're not. We're angry. And we're fast when it matters." Then Lena showed him something else: the AI. It was a machine they built 40 years ago. A living computer built to fight alien threats. It was shut down when the government lost funding. But now it was back online. Its name, RRKOS. The AI spoke in a calm voice. "Welcome back, Commander Rain. I have waited 14,610 days." Rain smiled. "Let's get to work." That night, Earth sent a secret signal. It was short, powerful, and aimed directly at the alien fleet. The Zorath ships tried to block it, but the signal broke through. In the center of the fleet, one alien ship's lights began to flicker. A small explosion happened inside. Alarms rang. The aliens on board screamed in confusion. "What's happening?" one shouted. Another answered, "We are being attacked from inside." Back on Earth, Lena looked at the data. "It worked," she whispered. Rand nodded. "Phase 1 complete. Now we start Phase 2. "What's that?" Lena asked. Rain looked at the sky through the window. "We make them bleed." But the Zorath were not going to wait forever. The next morning, 5 alien ships moved down toward Earth. They hovered over major cities: New York, Tokyo, London, Delhi, and Sao Paulo. They sent one more message. This is your final warning. Surrender in 24 hours or be erased. But Earth had already made its choice. The signal in the shadows was just the beginning. The first strike. The clock was ticking. 24 hours. That's all the Zorath had given Earth to surrender. The alien warships hovered in the sky, casting huge shadows over cities. People were scared, but some were ready to fight. They didn't want to give up their world without a fight. Dr. Lena Moritz stood in the control room, staring at the map of Earth. Every country was preparing. Some cities were evacuating. Others were hiding underground. But everyone was waiting for the first move. Rain stood beside her. His eyes were sharp, his mind already planning. We don't have much time, Lena said. The Zorath ships are getting closer. They can destroy any city with one shot. If we don't act now, we'll lose. Rand didn't answer. He just looked at the screen, where the giant alien ships moved across the sky. The humans had to act quickly, but they had nothing that could match the Zorath's power. Ready? Lena asked. Rand nodded. Activate Project Titan, he said. Across the world, in hidden bases, soldiers, engineers, and scientists worked quickly. They were part of a secret plan no one had known about until now. In the heart of the Zorath fleet, things were not going well. Exarcheth, the Zorath commander, paced nervously in his ship. The humans had done something strange. The signal they sent had caused damage to some of their warships. Nothing big, but it was enough to make the aliens worried. Who is causing this? Exarcheth growled. Find them. But it was already too late. In the skies above Earth, a small group of human fighter jets flew toward the alien ships. They were fast, but they were no match for the Zorath's power. The jets were just a distraction. The real strike was about to begin. On the ground, Lena and Rain watched the chaos on their screens. The jets fired missiles at the nearest Zorath warship. The missiles exploded against the alien shields, but the Zorath ship didn't move. It was like throwing pebbles at a wall. Then, suddenly, the sky lit up. A bright flash appeared in the distance. A huge explosion shook the ground. People gasped as they saw the bright light in the sky. Phase 1 successful, Rain said. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with determination. One of the alien warships had been hit, not from a missile, not from a bomb. It was from something far stranger. It was hit from inside. An explosion came from deep inside the Zorath ship. How did that happen? Lena asked, surprised. Rain's smile was small but fierce. We have a new weapon, and it's already in their fleet. Inside the Zorath ship, Exarcheth screamed in fury. Find the source of the attack. We are not weak. We are the strongest. But his orders were met with confusion. His own ships were falling apart. Alien technology, which had once been unbreakable, was now failing. Some of the Zorath ships began to retreat, but Exarcheth was not going to back down. He sent a message to all the ships in his fleet. Humans are attacking from within. They have a weapon we don't understand. We will destroy their world. No more mercy. Back on Earth, the humans were not done. In a hidden underground base, soldiers gathered in front of giant machines. These machines were designed for one thing: to take the fight to the Zorath. The first strike had been successful, but it was only a small part of the plan. Lena's voice echoed through the room. Prepare the next phase. We have to take the fight to the sky. A loud roar filled the air. The machines, giant humanoid robots, stood up. These were Earth's secret weapons, massive, powerful, and ready to fight. They were fast, strong, and armed with the same technology that had just caused the first explosion on the Zorath ship. Rain walked over to one of the robots and placed his hand on its metal surface. Let's show them who they're messing with, he said quietly. The first battle was over, but the war had just begun. In the sky, The alien warships regrouped. The humans had shown they could fight back. But the Zorath were not weak. They were angry, and they had more weapons than the humans could imagine. Rain looked at the map of Earth again. He knew this was only the beginning. The aliens would not stop until they destroyed everything. But the humans would not give up. They had something the Zorath didn't understand. They had hope, and they had heart. "Get ready for the next wave," Rain said. It was time to strike again. The last commander. The Zorath fleet had felt the first blow. But they were not finished. They were angry now. And anger was a dangerous thing when it came to the Zorath. Exarcheth, the Zorath commander, stood tall on the bridge of his ship. His face was cold, his eyes filled with fury. His ships had been damaged, but that was nothing compared to what he had done to other worlds. "Humans think they can fight us," he muttered. "They are fools." He sent orders to his fleet to attack again. This time, he would show no mercy. Cities would burn. The humans would learn their place. Meanwhile, deep inside a hidden base in the mountains of South America, Earth's last hope was waking up. General Rain stood in front of a large map of Earth. The map showed the locations of the alien ships, their movements, and their power. The humans had made progress, but they were still far from winning. The Zorath fleet was huge, and they were getting closer. "This is it," Rain said, his voice calm but serious. "If we don't stop them now, Earth will fall." Lena stood beside him. "We need more weapons. We need more soldiers." Rain nodded. "I've called in the last of the elite fighters, the ones who never left, the ones who believe in this world." Lena's eyes widened. "You mean?" "Yes," Rain said. "It's time for the last commander." The name Last Commander was spoken in whispers by those who knew the story. He was a man who had disappeared long ago, a soldier who had led a group of Earth's best warriors into space. He was a legend, and no one knew what had happened to him. But Rain knew where to find him. In a small forgotten military base in the frozen lands of the Arctic, an old man sat alone. His name was Commander Jack Archer. He had been the leader of Earth's first and only successful space mission. The mission that had failed. The mission that had sent him and his team to the outer reaches of space, never to return. Or so the world thought. Archer had been living alone for years, hiding from the world that had forgotten him. He had seen things no one should ever see. He had lost friends. He had lost everything. But now, Earth needed him again. A loud knock on the door broke the silence. Commander Archer stood up slowly. He opened the door, and there stood General Rain, with Lena by his side. "You're alive," Archer said, his voice rough but strong. "I never really died," Rain replied with a half-smile. "And Earth needs you again." Archer looked at Rain, then at Lena. "I swore I'd never fight again. But looks like I don't have a choice." "You don't," Rain said. "We need you. The Zorath are getting closer. They're about to destroy everything." Archer stood silent for a moment, then nodded. "All right. One last fight," he said. "Let's finish this." Back on Earth, the Zorath fleet moved closer. They were almost at the point of no return. The humans had shown that they could hurt them, but the Zorath were still confident. They had more ships, more weapons, more power. Exarcheth sent a final message to Earth. "Your resistance is weak. Surrender now, or we will burn your world to the ground." But Rain, Lena, and Commander Archer were ready. They gathered the last of Earth's best soldiers. They armed the remaining war machines. The giant robots that had fought before would fight again. And this time, they would have something new, Archer. As the battle began, Rain, Lena, and Archer led the charge. The sky above was filled with fire and smoke. The air trembled with the sound of war. But there was something else in the air, something the Zorath did not expect. Hope. The humans fought with everything they had. They fought for their planet, for their families, for the future, They fought because they knew that they had something the Zoreth would never have: a will to survive. The battle was fierce. Earth's defenses were holding for now, but the Zoreth were relentless. Each warship that fell was replaced by two more. But Rain had one more card to play. He turned to Archer. "It's time." Archer nodded. He climbed into the cockpit of the last Titan robot. The massive machine was ready. But so was he. He had fought battles like this before. The final fight had begun. As Earth's forces attacked the alien fleet, a strange thing happened. The Zoreth began to hesitate. Hexarketh's orders were no longer as sharp. His control was slipping. He stared at his screen in disbelief. The humans were pushing back. They were not retreating. They were fighting harder than ever. In that moment, Hexarketh realized something terrifying. The humans would not give up. They were not weak. They were not scared. And they were not going to stop until they won. "The weapon we shouldn't use." The battle raged on. Above Earth, the sky was a chaotic mix of fire and smoke. Zoreth warships continued to attack, but Earth's soldiers fought back harder than ever before. The Zoreth were strong, but humanity was strong too. They were willing to die for their planet, and that made them dangerous. General Rain stood in the control room, watching the battle unfold on the large screen. The Titan robots, led by Commander Archer, were taking down Zoreth ships one by one. But the Zoreth were not backing down. For every ship destroyed, two more appeared. Lena stood beside him, her face tense. "We're holding them back, but not for long," she said. Rand didn't look away from the screen. "We need a game changer, and we need it now." "Do you mean the weapon?" Lena asked quietly. Rain's face was cold. "It's our last hope." Deep underground, in the heart of Earth's secret weapons lab, a team of engineers was working quickly. They were building something no one wanted to use. It was a weapon so powerful, it could destroy an entire planet. But it was humanity's only chance to stop the Zoreth. The weapon was called the Ember Core. It was a massive bomb, built to release an explosion so powerful it could wipe out anything within a 100-mile radius. The engineers had worked on it for years, but it was never meant to be used. No one had ever planned for Earth to be in this kind of situation. "Are we sure we want to use this?" one of the engineers asked. His voice trembled with fear. "It's the only way," another engineer replied. "The Zoreth have destroyed everything we've thrown at them. We have no choice." But there was a problem. The Ember Core was designed to target enemy ships, but it was powerful enough to destroy entire cities, and even part of the planet itself. Lena knew this. She had helped design it, and now she was being asked to make the final decision. On the battlefield, Archer's Titan robots were beginning to tire. The Zoreth fleet was relentless. The humans had held their ground for hours, but the alien ships were pushing forward. The world was beginning to feel the weight of the battle. In the sky above, the Zoreth warships began to regroup. Hexarketh was watching from his ship, a cold smile on his face. The humans were strong, but they were running out of time. "Finish them," Hexarketh ordered. "Show them the true power of the Zoreth." One of his commanders turned to him. "But they are fighting back. They're hurting us." Sarketh slammed his fist on the table. "No one challenges the Zoreth. Prepare the fleet. We will crush them." Back on Earth, Rain and Lena had made their decision. The Ember Core was their last hope, but using it meant risking everything. If it didn't work, Earth would be destroyed along with the Zoreth. Rain stared at the map of the battlefield. The Zoreth were closing in. He turned to Lena. "It's time," he said. Lena hesitated, then nodded. "I'll give the order." In the heart of the secret base, the Ember Core was activated. The countdown began. "Ember Core ready for launch," the voice said. 10 minutes to activation. Lena and Rain watched as the countdown ticked down. The weight of the decision hung over them. This was the weapon that could save Earth, or destroy it completely. Above Earth, the Zoreth were preparing for their final attack. Sarketh watched as his ships moved into position, ready to wipe out the last of humanity. Then suddenly, his screens flickered. A strange signal appeared in his system, coming from Earth. "What is this?" Sarketh growled. A voice came through the communication channel. "This is General Rain. You have two choices: leave Earth, or we will destroy you all." Sarketh's eyes narrowed. "What are you talking about?" "We're sending a weapon," Rain's voice replied. "And if you don't leave, it will wipe out your entire fleet." Sarketh laughed. "You can't stop us. We are the Zoreth. You are nothing but ants." The countdown to the Ember Core continued. The Zoreth fleet was now just miles from Earth's atmosphere. The humans had one chance. If the Zoreth didn't retreat, the weapon would be launched. Rain's finger hovered over the button. He looked at Lena. "Do it," she said softly. Rand pressed the button. Across the sky, a bright flash appeared. A massive explosion erupted from the Earth's surface. The Ember Core had been launched. For a moment, everything went silent. Then the sky above the Zoreth fleet lit up. The explosion was like nothing anyone had ever seen. A shockwave of fire and energy rippled outward, tearing apart everything in its path. The Zoreth fleet screamed in horror as their ships were destroyed, one by one. Sarketh's flagship was hit first, then the rest followed. Some ships tried to escape, but the explosion was too powerful. The Ember Core had done its job. But as the explosion faded, there was something left behind. The ground beneath Earth shook. The planet itself had been damaged. The Ember Core had saved them, but at a terrible cost. The Earth was cracked, its surface scorched, and the sky was filled with dust and smoke. Rain and Lena stared at the screens in silence. The Zoreth were gone, but Earth was not the same. "We did it," Lena whispered. But it didn't feel like a victory. They had saved their world, but at what cost? The price of victory. The world was silent. The Ember Core had done its job. The Zoreth fleet was no more. But Earth was not the same. The once vibrant cities were now ruined. The sky, filled with dust and smoke, seemed dark, as if the planet itself was mourning the loss. The explosion had torn through everything, leaving Earth wounded and scarred. Rain stood outside the control room, looking at the horizon. The sun, once bright, now shone dimly through the haze. He could hear the soft hum of machinery behind him, but it didn't feel like a victory. Lena walked up beside him. Her eyes were filled with sadness. "We did what we had to do," she said, her voice low. "But look at what it cost us." Rain nodded. "I know. It wasn't just the Zoreth we defeated today. We lost so much." For the first time since the war began, Rain felt the weight of the decision they'd made. The Ember Core had saved them, but it had also torn their world apart. Thousands were dead. Entire cities were gone. The Earth was fractured. Lena looked at him, her face filled with worry. "Do you think we can rebuild after all this?" Rain turned to her, his face hard. "We have to." In the days that followed, Earth's survivors began to come together. The people were strong, but the task ahead was impossible. The damage from the explosion was everywhere. The ground had cracked in places, creating large rifts that swallowed entire buildings. The oceans had shifted, and weather patterns were changing, creating storms that were unlike anything Earth had ever seen. Humanity had fought for survival, but now they faced the hardest battle of all: rebuilding. The nations, once divided, now had to unite. It wasn't just about rebuilding cities or restoring governments. It was about rebuilding hope. General Rain and Lena worked tirelessly, leading the effort to restore some sense of order. But even as they worked, they knew that time was running out. Earth's wounds were deep, and they didn't have much time before the planet could no longer support life. In the heart of the ruined capital, Commander Archer walked through the streets. His Titan robot, which had fought so bravely, was now standing still, its armor cracked and scorched. Archer ran his hand over the cold metal. One last fight, he whispered to himself. The streets were quiet now. The hustle and bustle of life had been replaced by a deadly silence. Archer had been part of the victory, but it didn't feel like a win. Not when everything he had fought for was in ruins. He stopped in front of a small memorial. It was a simple structure, but it carried the weight of countless lives lost. Families, friends, soldiers, all gone. Archer knelt, his heart heavy with guilt. He had led the charge, but was it worth it? Rain and Lena stood in the remains of the war room, watching the global news reports. The faces of survivors appeared on the screens, some celebrating the fall of the Zoreth, but most were crying. There were no cheers now. There were no parties, just a sense of loss that could not be fixed. The Zoreth are gone, Lena said quietly, but their destruction lives on. We can't just forget that. Rain's eyes were hard. We can't, but we have to rebuild. We have to keep going. For everyone who lost their life, for everyone still alive. Lena turned to him. But at what cost? Ran? We sacrificed so much. I know, he said, but we don't have a choice. Earth is all we have. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. The rebuilding process was slow, but there was progress. New cities were rising from the ashes. Communities were coming together, working side by side, determined to restore what had been lost. But the scars of the battle could not be erased. The earth was forever changed. The sky remained dim, the air still thick with dust. The ground trembled occasionally as aftershocks of the explosion continued to ravage parts of the planet. And yet, even in the darkest of times, there was a spark of hope. Humanity had survived. Against all odds, they had fought back, not just against the Zoreth, but against the very end of their world. They had endured unimaginable loss, but they had not given up. One evening, as the sun began to set, Rain and Lena stood on a balcony overlooking the city. It was a small part of the world that had begun to heal. The once broken streets were now filled with people working together, rebuilding their homes and lives. Lena sighed. It's not perfect, but it's a start. Rain looked at her, his expression softened by the weight of the journey they had been through. It's more than we had before. We still have a chance. Lena nodded, her eyes on the horizon. We'll rebuild, piece by piece. The world may be broken, but we'll make it whole again. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the world was filled with the quiet sound of people working. It wasn't the end of the battle. It was the beginning of something new. A new beginning. The world was still healing. After the explosion of the Ember Core, Earth had been scarred. But slowly the planet was coming back to life. The cities were being rebuilt, and the skies, once dark and filled with smoke, were starting to clear. People were beginning to hope again. General Rain and Lena stood together, looking out over the rebuilding city. The sun was rising, and for the first time in a long while, it felt like the world was starting to heal. We've made it this far, Lena said quietly. Maybe we can make it all the way. Rain nodded. We have to. We owe it to everyone who didn't make it. Commander Archer had returned to his quiet life. His Titan robot, once the symbol of hope and strength, was now just a relic of the past. But Archer had found peace in the quiet. He spent his days helping others rebuild, but he didn't lead anymore. He had fought his battle, and now it was time for the next generation to take charge. But even in the peace, Archer knew something was different. He had seen the darkness of war, but he had also seen humanity's strength. He had seen them fight when there seemed to be no hope, and that gave him faith. Faith that humanity would rise again. In the heart of the rebuilt city, Rain and Lena stood before a new monument. It was simple, yet powerful. It wasn't just for the fallen soldiers or the lost cities. It was a symbol for the future. A reminder that no matter how dark the world might get, humanity could always rise from the ashes. It's hard to believe, Lena said, her eyes scanning the faces of the people working around them. After everything, we're here, still standing. Rain looked at the monument. We've been through hell, but we've learned something. We can survive, and we'll keep surviving. We're stronger than we ever knew." Lena smiled. It wasn't just the weapon or the machines. It was the people. We fought together. That's what made the difference. The world was different now. It wasn't perfect. The scars of the battle were still visible in the landscape, in the people's eyes. But the strength of humanity had survived. It was a new world, a world that had been broken and remade by the people who had fought for it. The earth was healing, and with it, humanity was learning to rebuild, to grow, to be better. They had faced the greatest threat they could imagine, and they had survived. But it wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about living. It was about finding a way forward. Rain stood by Lena as the sun set over the horizon. The world was slowly but surely coming back to life. There was no more war. There were no more battles to fight. The Zoreth were gone. Earth was free. For the first time in years, Rain allowed himself to feel a sense of peace. It wasn't a perfect world, but it was their world, and that was enough. Lena turned to him with a smile. "We did it," she said softly. "It's not just the end of the war. It's the beginning of something new." Rain smiled back. "It's a new beginning for all of us." As the stars began to twinkle in the sky, a sense of calm settled over the earth. The people, the world, the future, it was all uncertain. But there was one thing they knew for sure. Humanity had proven its strength, and they would not let anything destroy it. The end.